Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Crime Talk, and my name is Scott Reisch. Thanks for tuning in. It is our Tuesday night live show, and wow, I wonder if we have anything that we could possibly talk about. I mean, what do we have? We have, Ticia Stauch. Oh, we also have, what's that other thing going on in the world? Oh, yeah, the Derek Chauvin trial. Do you think the judge may think that maybe he didn't give Derek Chauvin a fair trial, particularly in light of some of the news regarding one of the jurors? Yeah, possibly. And who can possibly ever forget? We still have absolutely nothing going on in Idaho. Unbelievable to me. Unbelievable. But we have a lot to talk about. All right, thanks for tuning in. If you haven't done so already, please hit that like button. Please hit the subscribe button for those of you who are maybe here for the first time. My name is Scott Reisch. I'm a practicing criminal defense attorney here in the state of Colorado. We started this program. I can't believe it's been like 3 years, right? Unbelievable. 3 years. Now we do a daily video. Before it used to be a little spotty video every now and then, kind of started out talking about Chris Watts. You know, somebody said, hey, you should do a video. In fact, a good friend of mine said you should do a video on YouTube. I'm like, nobody cares what I have to say. But then I got so frustrated about how the news was presenting things or not presenting things, and they were talking about stuff they just knew nothing about. And it just created more angst in the community because nobody knew what the hell they were talking about. So hopefully that's where we come in. You may not always like what I have to say, but hopefully you know I'm going to give it to you straight. Bottom line, that's the way it is. I have no motive, incentive. I don't get more money if I speak for one side or the other. You know, that I do that at my day job, so to speak. But guess what? At least you know where I'm coming from. Here, I'll just tell you the way I see it. Like, here's the law. Here's the facts. I think this is the way things will probably turn out. And obviously, no one's ever perfect, but I think I've got a pretty good track record. The thing that maybe brings me down a little bit every now and then, you know, Duggar Dugar. I've never seen so many people come to the defense of an alleged pedophile to let me know you're mispronouncing his name. Sorry. I guess I will watch TLC a little more before I, and research. But now we actually have the video where Josh Duggar, rhymes with hugger, can say his name. So therefore I won't have to worry about doing it along. We'll just have Frank plug that in. Maybe I can get one of those boards, those sound boards, where I'll just push Duggar, you know. I think we had kind of a similar issue with Ghislaine Maxwell. Who comes up with names these days? You know what I mean? I mean, Ghislaine, I understand it's like it's a French name and everything, but some of these names, you look at them, you're like, I think we combined like names. Like, who comes up with this? How about like Jane, Julie, Kristen, something straightforward, Scott, Joe, Bob, right? William, stuff like that. But some of the stuff, I just don't get it. Anyway, here we are. Obviously, leave a chat here in the chat section here on YouTube, and we will try to answer your questions. We do have mods. All right, they're great mods. They volunteer. I think the most we've ever given a mod is some T-shirts and some mugs. And that was a while back. So they do this out of the goodness of their heart. So be kind to them. General rules, let's try, we can agree to disagree, but we can do it politely. We don't need to call people names. It's just not appropriate. I think we're hopefully a little better than that. We don't need to just call everybody names. Now, we do not ask for it, but I would say that if you do a super chat, it gets highlighted here on my screen. I don't know if it does in everybody else's, but it does mine, and it jumps out at me. So Thank you, Just Jimmy. I agree the mods are good. Some people disagree with the mods, what they do. They're doing their best. And, hey, it's not like they're mispronouncing names or anything, people. So cut them a little bit of slack, all right? Yes, Kathleen, people love to correct other people. I get it. It is what it is. I'm not offended in any way. Listen, I have been a criminal defense attorney for 26 years. If mispronouncing a name is, whatever. Heck, little secret between you and me. Sometimes I do it in court on purpose, particularly with expert witnesses. It just annoys the hell out of them when you mispronounce their name. Oh, Dr. whatever, and you mispronounce it. It just drives them nuts, and it literally flusters them on the stand a little bit. So giving away one of my little secrets there. But it's true because, most people like to have their names pronounced correctly. I get it. Some clients will like, oh, it doesn't matter how you pronounce it. Yeah, it does. It's your name. Let's make sure we get it right. So I try my hardest. And I think I've told this story once. I was doing jury selection one time, and I swear the juror's name was spelled Smith, right? The judge pronounced it Smith. The prosecutor asked Miss Smith, potential juror, a question. Only when she got to me, I said, now, Miss Smith. She goes, actually, it's pronounced Smythe. Oh, really? Okay. I mean, you just never know what you're going to get, ladies and gentlemen. You just got to go with it. It is what it is. All right, let's see here. Hey, Addles, my name has been mispronounced whole life. There's only one way you can say it incorrectly that bothers me. I get it. I've had my name mispronounced numerous times as well. All right, so lots to talk about. I think kind of the breaking news from late this afternoon is the story about the motion for a new trial that was filed on behalf of Derek Chauvin. And the reason why they want a new trial is that they're basically stating that the motion for moving the trial, a change of venue, should have been granted, and it resulted basically in an unfair trial. Now, I want to pull up a story here that I read this morning, but somehow it's being blocked, I think. All right, here we got it. Well, this may be enough to help get a new trial. Do you remember Juror 52, Brandon Mitchell? So he appeared on one of the morning shows last week. Well, it turns out that he attended an August 28th march in Washington, D.C., which featured speeches by George Floyd's siblings, while a photo circulating online shows him with two cousins wearing the T-shirt as well as Black Lives Matter's hat. This could come back and haunt the prosecution, is that Mr. Mitchell, who's 31, answered no when he asked during jury selection if he had attended any protests regarding George Floyd. And frankly, I don't think it would be a big deal if he said, I, in fact, had attended a rally, a protest regarding the treatment of George Floyd, because that would have been truthful and honest. And then the judge and both sides could have decided whether this individual, this juror number 52, would have been an appropriate juror for the case. But now it appears as though juror number 52, he wasn't completely candid, right? This is the same type of issue that we have in the Scott Peterson case, where the juror didn't answer truthfully and stayed on the jury. Then to come and find out, she had in fact been a victim of domestic violence. She had to seek a restraining order. Not exactly the same scenario as the Scott Peterson case, but the point is it's a domestic violence situation. And when people aren't truthful on voir dire, it throws the whole process into a muck. It loses the credibility, because the whole purpose of a jury trial is that you are starting on an even playing field. Nobody has been given a head start, whether by the allegations or whether somebody has formed an opinion. So if somebody has already formed an opinion as to the case prior to the outset of evidence being presented and hearing all the evidence, then that could definitely be an issue. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I want to see the whole motion filed by Mr. Nelson on behalf of Derek Chauvin. But, this is one of those cases where, and I hate to say, it's like any case, and if it's a high-profile case, and I get it, a lot of people wanted this particular result. They were worried if they didn't get this particular result. But that's not how we function in the United States, all right? I'm a defense attorney. I'm always going to be on the side of, I don't care what the person did, you have to give them a fair trial. And when you find out that jurors aren't being honest, okay, that's a problem. Who knows? The state may get to do this case all over again. If I was the judge, I think I would probably haul this juror in and maybe ask him a couple of questions and maybe even state, you may need to get yourself an attorney. Because, when you go to jury duty, you swear under oath that you're going to give truthful and correct answers. And if you're not, then, like I said, it just completely throws into jeopardy the whole legal process and whether someone's actually receiving due process, which is, part of a fair trial. Question here by Stephanie. How do I contact Scott about collabing with another law tuber or bringing awareness to the cold case where a police officer was killed by a car bomb? Just reach out to Frank or Julie. I believe their contact information is on the page. Am I correct?
Yes.
CrimeTalk. At Reisch Law Firm. You can message Julie on Instagram as well. We'll set that up. We're always interested in new opportunities. You never know. Never turn anything down just without exploring it. That's for sure. Let's see here. I'm going through some of the questions here. Let me see here. So the Derek Chauvin matter. I don't know. He may get a new trial, and he may be entitled to it. I just don't see how the court can ignore the proceedings. Certainly he's going to say, but when evidence starts coming in that the jurors weren't fair and impartial, I don't know. I just don't know. And that juror would have no one else to blame but themselves because, my first thought was, why was this juror going on the morning shows like that? I mean, they're all worried about their privacy, but now the trial's over and everything, they look like heroes. Now they want to be on live TV. Let's see. To be at 1 minute, it looks like then the state gets locked. Okay, I'm sorry. Let's see here. It doesn't say. Okay. Un petit je ne sais quoi. Un petit je ne sais quoi. Okay. Can you? I suppose the defense supervised the writing of the juror questionnaire. They did not ask the right question. They asked about protests in Minnesota. He answered he was not lying. Well, this goes kind of back to even like the Scott Peterson case. Yes, the juror stated that he was asked about any protests in Minnesota. However, I think somebody that was going to be fair and candid to make sure both sides received an appropriate trial, a fair juror in that particular case, would say, I didn't attend in Minnesota, but I went to Washington, D.C. for the same thing. I think most people would volunteer that information. Now, but hey, we'll see how things shake out. But I seem to think that I think the judge, frankly, that sounds a little too coy in the answer. Well, you didn't ask me that question. I watched the entire voir dire, other than maybe I think about half a day of it, and there was always something on there regarding, is there anything else we should know? What else would you like to tell? Those types of things. That's where jurors have to be forward and straight on and honest. And I always give the opportunity for jurors to say, last chance for you to tell me something you think I should know. Because if I find out later, guess what? And the trial goes south, nothing personal, juror number whatever, I'm going to crush you, because that means my client got convicted and it wasn't a fair trial. I'm going to come after the juror, bottom line. And you don't play games like that when you're talking about somebody's life. That's what it is. And I don't care if it was that Derek Chauvin case. I could give two craps about Derek Chauvin in the big picture. But if they don't get a fair trial, that flows over into the entire judicial system. It doesn't instill trust and confidence in the system if people can't trust it. And part of that process is that jurors have to be open and honest about their feelings. All they have to say. I get rid of jurors all the time. I simply say, this does not mean you're not a good person. It doesn't mean that you may not be a great juror, but maybe this is just not the case for you because things hit a little too close to home, right? If it's a homicide case and you have a family member that was the victim of a homicide or a close relative, let's say it's a sexual assault case or sex assault on children. Some people are like, I just can't get around that fact. I just, hang them high. I don't care what they did. The allegation is enough. Well, obviously, we can't have jury systems operating on the basis of the allegation itself. That's just not fair. And so that's what it comes down to. Like I said, if Derek Chauvin gets a fair trial and he's convicted, so be it. But now there's evidence that maybe we had a juror that wasn't honest. It throws a bit of a taint into the entire process. Let's see. If a defendant pleads self-defense, does he have to testify? Valerie. All right. Completely kind of off question from what we were talking about. But self-defense is an affirmative defense. All right. So if you're charged with assaulting somebody, self-defense is, I did it. I'm admitting to the crime charged, but I'm saying that I was legally able to do that. I was legally permissible to do that under the law. It's called self-defense. Normally, you always try to be able to receive the instruction without your client testifying, but you only get an affirmative defense instruction if there's been some evidence of that. Well, normally you need the person to say, I was in fear of I was in fear of serious death or bodily injury, and therefore I did, hit the other person, but it was in self-defense. They were threatening me. I threatened him. I used reasonable force, nothing more than necessary. So you have to present a mere scintilla of evidence to get the instruction. Normally on a self-defense case, it does require the defendant having to testify. Sometimes you can get it in, sometimes you can't, but yeah, normally you need to try it. That's the way it comes in. Let's see. Thanks, Joyce. Thanks for hitting that like button. Appreciate that. We always like let's see, Michelle, Scott, do you think Chauvin will be granted a new trial? I don't know if it may have to go up on the appellate courts. I don't know if the trial court judge is going to do that. Why? Because most trial court judges don't like to state that they were wrong. So there's going to have to be some pretty compelling evidence to do so, but I don't think at the trial court level he would get it. Maybe at the appellate court level, but once again, the appellate courts, they live in the community as well. They're going to be like, we don't want the place to burn down if we have to do this all over again. So they may find a way out. I don't know. Just Jimmy, jury duty should never be used as a vengeance. Yeah, jury service is not meant to be a social justice, platform. I mean, there are lots of cases. I remember long ago, you had to do the marijuana cases, and they would always, everybody like, it's just marijuana, right? And then everybody, well, this isn't a referendum on whether it's marijuana or not. It's, we're just following the law. You have to be able to apply the law whether you like it or not. And every now and then you get somebody on the jury who's like, man, I've been smoking dope all my life. I was never going to find him guilty. All right, you just, now you just delayed the inevitable. But I get it. And, jury nullification has been around. It's a thing. You can't argue for it. But the reality of it is that, we want people to follow the jury instructions. That's the way the law is written. You don't like the law, right? You go to the legislature, you go to Congress, and you get them to change the law. You don't backdoor it in some other way. Let's see here. Ticia Stauch. Let's talk about Ticia Stauch. So she wants to get an attorney. She wrote a letter. It was in the form of a motion, had a general caption that she was able to write in from the jail. And she was requesting that she wants an attorney now. She wants an attorney at state expense other than the public defender. And then the court redacted what was put open to the public as to what the request was. The court appointed the public defender. We'll find out, I believe they're set on the 5th at 3 p.m. as to what that means. Is the public defender going to officially be reappointed and stay on Ticia Stauch's case, or is she going to raise some sort of a conflict to try and get private counsel? And for those of you who aren't familiar with the public defender system, and it works this way in many states, but there's always a variance of that. Here in Colorado, Colorado has one of the best public defender systems in the country. It was started in the early 70s, and literally some of the people that started here in the public defender's office in the early 70s, I mean, they're legends. They built a statewide public defender office. There's an appellate division. I mean, really smart people, really smart attorneys. And a lot of the attorneys at the public defender's office here in the state of Colorado, I mean, they could be off in private practice making a ton of money, and they do it because, I mean, they like representing people accused of crime, and to make sure that their rights are in fact protected. And one of the heads, he wasn't at the time, but I was in law school, and he was my criminal law professor, and he ultimately went on to run it. He's now back in private practice. But I remember when I was getting out of the Marine Corps, I literally, I was like, I'm getting out of the Marine Corps. I think I'm going to go back to Colorado. I don't really want to take a bar exam. What am I going to do? And I remember I called him up and said, hey, you probably don't remember me. I was, probably not the best student in your class if I even showed up. But hey, I was thinking about coming back to Colorado. Can you have me job prospects? And he's like, well, you probably want to, I was thinking about starting my own practice. And so I didn't want to go to the public defender's office because that's kind of what I was doing in the military. In the military, you switch. You're a prosecutor, you're a defense attorney, and you're defense attorney or prosecutor. It's pretty good because you get to learn both sides of the system. Where in the private sector, I mean, I can probably count on one hand the number of people I know that were prosecutors and then public defenders and vice versa. So you don't really have that perspective. But here, so we have a great public defender system, and then they have what they call the alternate defense counsel system in Colorado. And if you're in that system and there is a case that's, for example, a bad case, or there's a conflict with the public defender's office, usually if there's multiple co-defendants, 2 or more, then they appoint private attorneys. The federal system has the same system. They have the Federal Public Defender's Office, and then they have the Criminal Justice Act panel attorneys. You have to be screened. You have to get on that panel because they don't take just anybody on those cases. Same thing with the alternate defense counsel. They don't take people just right out of law school and say, hey, I think I want to practice criminal law. Can I practice with some clients? It doesn't work that way. Most of the people have, I'd say at least 5 to 7 years of experience being public defenders or in private practice doing criminal defense work before you can get on this list. And it's not your private rates, but it's still good. And I can, I'm on the Criminal Justice Act panel in both the federal as well as the ADC here in the state. And, we get the more serious cases because I've been doing them a long time, and, I do them. And it's kind of my way of giving back. I mean, I can make, it's always frustrating when you see the billing. You're like, wow, I could make that in a couple hours on a private case. But, people that don't have money and can't afford it need competent legal representation. And I truly believe that. And that's why we do it. And I have other attorneys in my office that do it as well. So we'll see ultimately what the court does with Ticia Stauch tomorrow afternoon. I think she's going to get, appointed the public defender. She should take the public defender. All right. Even if she has a personality conflict, I don't know what her issues were beforehand with the public defender. I think maybe it was the whole COVID thing. I know early on, I think the public defender's offices statewide had kind of taken the position that they're not going to the jail. It's just too dangerous, that kind of scenario. But those restrictions, for the most part, are gone now. The jail, I think, for a while wasn't letting anybody in. I would go see my clients at jail. Frankly, it was just easier to go do it than set up a Zoom call that was going to take 2 weeks to schedule. It was ridiculous. But the reality of it is, I mean, you're indigent. You're in custody. You have no money. You need an attorney because you're looking to spend the rest of your life in prison. And the public defender's office is going to give you probably 2 attorneys, plus all the resources that come with that, the appellate staff, the really smart people at the appellate division, investigators. I mean, you'd be a fool not to be represented by the public defender. They have a great set of attorneys down there, and they're going to do everything they can to make sure that Ticia Stauch is represented well. So hopefully Ticia Stauch has figured out the errors of her ways, quit trying to game the system, just roll with the public defenders. They're going to do a good job for you. I just don't get it. A lot of people give a bad rap to public defenders. And I think we've talked about this before, but some of the best attorneys I have ever seen have been public defenders. Okay? Just like some of the worst attorneys I've ever seen have been in private practice. Public defenders are usually quite good because they get a lot of practice, which is also kind of the problem, is because they usually have so many damn cases. And when they have, 200 felony cases and, more are coming in next week, there's a motivation to kind of get those cases resolved. And they can't spend, when you have 200 felony cases, you can't spend more than a couple of minutes on each of those a day at most, let alone really dig into them. So something's going to get neglected. Something's not going to get the attention it deserves. That's obviously the issues with most public defenders. You hear about public defenders' offices being underfunded and courts actually saying, no, state, you're going to fund the public defender's office. They have to do that. There's this case, what do they call that? Oh, yeah, Gideon v. Wainwright. Little man back in the 60s wrote a handwritten petition to the United States Supreme Court saying, I want an attorney. Supreme Court said, you're going to take away man's liberty. You're going to give him an attorney. And ever since then, if you're in custody, you're going to get an attorney. If you're out of custody, you have to qualify. So, that's how those cases come about. Let's see here. The question asked if he attended the thing in Minneapolis. The thing he attended was in Washington, D.C. Diana, I don't think it matters. I think the essence of the question is, have you attended protests? Okay. He could say, no, I haven't attended protests in Minneapolis, but I want to let you know, out of complete candor to the court and to the counsel involved and to the defendant, oh, by the way, I did attend something in Washington, D.C., and that's in reference to the juror who attended a George Floyd rally in Washington, D.C., which may be the basis of a new trial. Think about it. What would it have hurt if juror number 52 wasn't on that jury? Would it have made a difference if he had said, yeah, I was there? Maybe he wouldn't have been on, or someone else would have been. Apparently, it wouldn't have made much of a difference. So I'm not sure why people are all getting spun up about it that, well, he wasn't specifically asked. No. That's like saying, have you ever been married in the state of Colorado? Well, I've never been married in the state of Colorado, but I did get married. It's something that you would add to. It's called common sense, unless you're trying to get on the jury. So we'll see. Lynette, I will bet that even with the public defender back on, Letitia will still get her trial before the day bail trial. I don't know about that, because I think if the public defenders get back on, the preliminary hearing, proof evident presumption, great, will be kicked out even farther, probably a year out. There's going to be a lot of legal issues on the motions that were filed in that case, is what I could imagine. So, yeah. But you're probably it's going to be close. Lynette, it's going to be close. Mary Rose, how do people go from middle-class homeowners to indigent? I don't think that's what indigent means. Well, Mary Rose, let me try to explain. If you are in custody, normally, you automatically qualify for the assistance of the public defender. Now, of course, if you are extremely wealthy, they may qualify that a little bit and say, well, you have assets. And I've seen that where people say, the public defender saying, we're taking a limited representation. At this point, we're representing him, but we don't think he qualifies because we think he's worth $50 million or something along those lines. At that point, they're probably going to, and the guy, if he has that kind of money, he's going to go hire private counsel because he's going to want somebody to say, hey, I want somebody that's got time to focus on my case and, for lack of a better term, be at my beck and call when I need something. But I assure you, if you have a criminal charge and you are held in custody, how long do you think you could go until you maybe lose your house? You spend your savings. Maybe you try to post a bond. Most people, what is it? They say most people are, a couple of paychecks away from basically being homeless. They would lose their job, couldn't pay their rent. Now what? Maybe they don't have family, friends to fall back on. It could happen. I've seen it happen. So I wouldn't say it. I just don't understand how it can happen. It can happen. It can happen really darn quick. Let's see here. Stay safe in Colorado, Scott. Crazy stuff happening there all the time. There is crazy stuff happening all the time. I swear. Mama Pink, are you able to make the Scott and Winnie emojis available for us regular folk? I must have one of Scott with his head down. I'm not sure how that works. I know that's the whole, I think it's the membership thing. What is it, like $1 or something like that? 99 cents. Not even $1. 99 cents. Let's see here. Questions. Man, it's just a quiet, noisy night in the studio. Let's see here. Not Lisa. I fired my PD and hired a private attorney, which is, one's right to do so. They do not need to represent you. I assure you the public defenders will be like, fine, you don't want to hire it? We got plenty of cases to work on. Go hire a private attorney. You're entitled to counsel of your choice as long as you can pay for it. And that's what I think Ticia Stauch is running a little afoul of this whole thing, is that you're entitled to counsel of your choice if you can pay for it. Not when you're indigent, in custody, can't work. Yeah, it happens. Let's see, Gina. Almost 1,000 people watching. I know, isn't that great? I mean, what was it the other night? What did we have, like 3,000, I think? That was great for a live. I think the last time we had a big live like that was back in the Chris Watts days. Welcome to a law student, Mama Pink. All right. Brother Drum. Yeah, we have a law student in here. That's
the memberships are called.
Oh.
Law student and intern.
Got it. Okay, sorry. You told me that. Sorry, I forgot. Although we should have a lot of law students here, particularly ones that want to do, whether it be a prosecutor or criminal defense. I think they could learn something here. That's the whole point of this channel, is hopefully people will learn something about the law and maybe realize something. Nothing brings me greater joy and satisfaction when somebody says, I used to always hate criminal defense attorneys, but I've listened to you and there's some things that I think you're right about. And I've learned something, maybe whether it be about the Constitution or criminal procedure and, about giving somebody a fair trial. And that makes my day, because that's the whole point of this channel all along. So, yeah, it makes me happy. All right, Sylvia, welcome. Member, law student. That's great. See, people join the members. That's great. Okay. If Lori gets a state-appointed attorney, now assuming we're talking about Lori Vallow, will the state pay for the DNA expert witnesses? Now, I'm not exactly sure how Idaho is set up, but if she were someone, let's say, hypothetically speaking, because I don't know, this was going to happen anyway. Let's say Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell one day decided, you know what? We're not going to go with our present attorneys. We just don't believe that they're doing a good job for whatever reason. Just don't like them. Maybe they finally run out of money. They got the estimation for the trial fee, and they can't do it. So fine, we'll take the public defender. Well, the public defender can only represent one, so then they appoint a private attorney. Then the private attorney would be paid by the state, and depending on how their system is set up, whether there's a statewide agency or if the court has to approve any requests, then yes, there's a possibility that the court could pay for their expert witnesses as well. Well, thanks for those kind words. James, appreciate that. Appreciate that. Let's see here. Still the Chris Watts, still the cash cow of YouTube. I mean, there are people 3 years later, right, still coming up with new plots and theories. And how many, after 3 years, how many have come to fruition? I'll wait. Yep, that's what I thought. None, right? No one else has been charged. No other grand conspiracies have been outlined. None. And who said the case, it's over? If the police had information, they would charge it. If something new came about, they would charge it. If they thought they could prove it beyond a reasonable doubt at trial. Nothing's come about. I don't think anything ever will. As far as the police are concerned, they got their guy. They believe that he acted alone, and that's it. So, Patricia 317 Fritz just joining. What's going on? Well, we talked about a couple of things. Nice way to segue back into what we were talking about. We talked about Ticia Stauch. She now wants an attorney. We talked about Derek Chauvin's counsel filing a motion for a new trial based upon basically everything that's taken place, and that a pre-trial change of venue should have been granted, and that he didn't, and it's an unfair trial. And we talked about juror number 52, who participated in a Black Lives Matter protest for George Floyd in Washington, D.C., and apparently the video is going around showing him in a BLM hat, T-shirt, etc., which nothing wrong against that. The question is, why didn't he disclose that when he was being asked questions? Now, people are trying to say, well, he was only asked that, did he attend any protests in Minnesota? And I think most people would say, this is not some sort of a deposition. You're not an adversary in this process. You took an oath to give truthful answers, to provide candid answers, not to, get in a position where you're trying to play some sort of game of gotcha. And we'll see if a new trial is granted and that was the basis for it. I wonder if he thinks it was worth it. Did he get away with it? Not at all. If it gets reversed on appeal by the appellate courts, we'll have to wait and see. Thanks, Raven. Love you so much. I've learned a lot from you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Scott, didn't the judge tell Ticia if she gave up her rights to an attorney, she couldn't request one later? That's what the courts will advise somebody of in what we refer to here in Colorado as an arguello advisement. And it's based upon a case. And it basically is an advisement that the court gives to any defendant, whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony, whether it's a class 6 or an F1 felony, where somebody's going to be spending the rest of their life in prison if they're convicted. And basically what it says is, hey, I'm going to ask you these questions. What's your educational level? How far have you gone in school? Do you have any formal legal training? And the judge is going to inquire and basically say, hey, this legal stuff, it's a little more difficult than what people make it out to be. And it's a very specialized area of law. Don't you think you'd like to have somebody that's experienced in that help you? The judge will go on and explain, say, if you proceed as a defendant pro se to represent yourself, that you are going to be held to the same standard as a practicing licensed attorney. So the judge can't help out in any way. The judge cannot assist even to the slightest degree. Most the judge will do will say, here's a statute book. It's a year or two old, but here you go. Good luck if that's what you want to do. The judge will make a further inquiry saying, you're going to be held to the same standard. So you have to be up to speed on the rules of evidence, and you have to be up to speed on the rules of criminal procedure. If there's things that you don't do, it may forever be waived. If there are things that are not objected to, it may forever be waived. And the court cannot help you out in any way. And so the court says basically it's a really bad idea to represent yourself, but you have a constitutional right to represent yourself if you choose to do so. And usually the defendant was like, yeah, I want to do it myself. I know where the law library is. I got this. I've been through the system before. Or I'm smarter than everybody else. I can do this. And as I think we've seen, Ticia Stauch, maybe, I don't know, maybe family members told her to quit being so stubborn. Maybe she learned it on her own that, hey, this is more difficult than I thought. And, hey, I could spend the rest of my life in prison. If I screw this up, I have no one to blame. You can't come back later and say, I received ineffective assistance of counsel. I was representing myself. Okay? But like I said, most defendants say, fine, where do I sign? I'm doing this. And, this is nothing informal, but I would say probably 50% of them, defendants that decide to represent themselves, usually change their mind for the better. I just think it's a bad idea. I could watch a YouTube on, how to wire my house or maybe, put new plumbing in my house. I could maybe even get it done, but it wouldn't be as good as if I'd hired, a master electrician or a master plumber. Why? Because that's what they do. They're good at it. Why would you want to, on your first project, do it all yourself like that? I'm sure people could do it. I just see no benefit in that whatsoever. So the court will say, hey, I'm not going to give you another attorney. Usually they will. Because who in the courtroom, other than maybe the prosecutor, doesn't want the defendant to proceed pro se? That's the judge, the court. Because although the court will try not to, help out the defendant, the court also has a responsibility, just like the prosecutor does, to protect the record. If there are errors being made that are what the appellate courts would be plain error, it doesn't mean that, that it's so obvious an error that the judge has to, what they call sua sponte, on their own, raise an objection. So they do kind of try to protect the record, to give them the best fair trial they can. It's not complete. They don't. The rules just don't go away because the defendant doesn't know what to do. The court will help them out in a little bit. So, the judge wants attorneys in there. Nobody wants pro se defendants, and I know some people have won as pro se defendants. I get it. There's always that guy, There's always that guy or woman that, went pro se and won. We all hear about it forever. Okay. There's always that one guy, but 99.9% of the time, it's not going to turn out well. It's simply not. So I hope Ticia Stauch gets the attorney. She sticks with the attorney. If there's a true ethical conflict, then she'll get, a private court-appointed counsel in that case. But, we'll see. We'll see how that works out. Let's see. Canoe King, sorry. It says, what do you think about the new evidence that has come out on the Stephen Avery case? And Canoe King, I'm going to have to take a pass on this question because I'm not exactly sure which new evidence you are referring to. But I will try to get you an answer. If not now, hopefully by next week, and we'll see where things stand. Kirsten. Okay, let's see here. Ticia didn't believe Gannon would be found. Yeah. Who knows exactly what Ticia Stauch was thinking. I mean, I don't know, and obviously the affidavit for the arrest warrant, which we've talked about here, she gives a lot of different statements, but we'll have to wait and see how that all plays out. Like anyone here on this that we talk about, they're given the presumption of innocence. Bottom line. Let's see here. Wait, hey, correcting an error is not coming to his defense. Guylaine is a very old and common French name, pronounced Guylaine. You're being chauvinistic. Okay. All right. Like I said, I'm not offended. I was just surprised by the number of comments. Like I said, apparently I don't watch enough TLC reality TV that the name Duggar popped to mind and said, oh, yeah, I've watched that. Never seen a show in my life. Never seen it. And TLC channel, I've seen a couple of episodes of the 90 Day Fiancé, and I just want to scratch my head and say, why do people find this interesting? I just don't get it. Like, couldn't I be learning how to do like brain surgery or something instead of watching this? I mean, I don't get it. But hey, that's just, I'd rather go fly an airplane or something. I don't know, but that's the way it is. Oh, look at Mama Pink. Look at those I love Scott emoji there. The little Winnie. Very cool, very cool, very cool. All right, man, can you believe already an hour has gone by? Look at that, almost 1,000 viewers this evening as well. So this is a good time to talk about our Patreon, okay? What do I have here? I have a list of new Patreon members that I'm going to read tonight when we start our Patreon show. We are at 250 Patreons. And when you join up, so for example, let's say you get charged with murder, right? And you don't know what the rules of evidence are. You become a Patreon member. Why? Because we're going to give you an evidence trial guide with all the objections, how to lay evidentiary foundation. So when you're watching that case at home, you can play along at home and know why somebody is objecting. Bottom line, it's good stuff. And Valerie, thanks for joining there. A lot of new members. That's pretty cool. For 99 cents, you can't go wrong, right? And so, yeah, I mean, it's a great deal. So, and the Patreon show that we do after this, if you're a Patreon member, we send you a link, and then we have a call-in number. Of course, I can't give everybody the call-in number. Otherwise, everybody would call in, and they wouldn't be a Patreon. But we've had some really interesting conversations on the Patreon. We had a Patreon member who is a death penalty mitigation expert. That was a great conversation. We had somebody call in from Idaho that literally lives down the street from where all the Vallow stuff took place. And we're like, hey, where should we fly into? We found a closer airport that we need to fly into as well when we go there. And I know we've said it, but it's just been crazy busy. But I think soon, maybe this week or next, I think we're going. It just depends. I've got to try. Yeah. And then we've got the Patreon show, but you can call in. And where for a small nominal fee can you call in and ask your favorite little harmless little fuzzball criminal defense attorney questions about legal questions that you may have? You can't do it anywhere else. So it's a good time. I mean, I think our Patreon family has grown exponentially. It's going, very fast. And you don't have to, once you're in, it's not like you can stop it at any time. Nobody's forcing you to stay. As long as you're enjoying it, please stay. We try to engage with our Patreons, because it's tough. A lot of people, sometimes people, I see the little pop-up stuff comes up on my phone when comments come in just on the regular YouTube, and I can't answer all of them because it would literally take all day. I mean, some of these things, we have 3,000, 6,000 comments, but every now and then it's some like, hey, I know Scott doesn't read these or whatever, and I respond to them immediately, or just depends on the time of day, what I'm doing, that I can do it. But on the Patreon, we try to interact more. We got Julie Frank that they can get the questions, get them to me. I can, give them the answer back, and we're here for you. So, let me a couple of questions here. Membership or payment got the priority to be answered? Neither one. It just depends. So I for you, it says, why does the Department of Justice of a state of America send a criminal notice of violation to a foreign corporation simply because online advertising via media and internet reached the state? Well, if somebody is conducting business outside of the United States, say, for example, an online business, and you're doing something that maybe is prohibited, then the Department of State will say, hey, you're doing business here in the state. You need to register as a foreign corporation, okay? So, for example, if I incorporate a company here in Colorado, but I want to set up an office in, I don't know, pick a state, Wyoming, you're doing business there, you're getting the protections of the state, you have to follow their rules. And one of the rules is if you're going to conduct business, you have to, register with the Secretary of State's office. And what that is if somebody sues you or wants to sue you, they know where to find you. So hopefully that answered your question. I think it's pronounced I for you. There's a lot of, I believe to be Chinese information there, but hopefully that answers the question. Let's see. But the fact that was asked about Minnesota is not going to matter, even after the other issues with the ones that we're talking about, him not testifying. Okay, let me just, Megan Graves. I know I'm super late to the party, but the fact that he was asked about Minnesota is not going to matter even after the other issues with the ones that were talked about, him not testifying. I mean, those all go to it. I mean, you got a juror saying, wow, we really wanted to hear that guy testify. And it sounds like they considered that. It'd be one thing if the juror had said on TV, yeah, of course, everybody would like to have heard what he had to say, but we didn't consider that in any way because that's the instructions that the court gave us. He didn't say that. The portion that I saw, he stated that they considered his silence against him. I mean, the prosecution had to be literally dying 1,000 deaths when they saw that interview because, I mean, I'm not saying he's going to get a new trial. I don't know what's going to happen, but it sure would have been a hell of a lot easier for the prosecution had the juror not gone public. Jeez. Marlee, hello from Shanghai, China. I'm an Aussie that loves your work. Thanks for all the great information. Well, that's great, Mari. I didn't know that we were actually in China. I didn't know YouTube let them see something like this. And since we talk about freedom and liberty, I didn't know if they would shut you down. One of these days, I'll tell you my Chinese story with my Chinese tour guide over there. Kind of interesting. But welcome from Shanghai. We love all our viewers from around the world. Let's see. Granny Marge Aragon. Hey, Scott, is it uncommon for a high school dropout to go up against a well-known attorney and win if they had their facts straight? He is now a judge. Laugh out loud. Possible. Yeah, I mean, nothing's impossible. It's certainly uncommon, but not impossible. That's for sure. And you have to remember, most states, it's technically not a requirement to be an attorney to be a judge. There are jurisdictions here in Colorado, smaller jurisdictions in the mountain towns, western slopes, where there are magistrate judges that are not judges. They handle smaller matters traffic disputes, small claims courts, things like that. But they still have to follow the law, but you don't have to be an attorney to do that. And frankly, there's usually nobody in town that wants the job, so somebody volunteers for it and gets appointed by the governor. Good to go. So, yeah. Yep, Mama Pink, look at that little thing there. All right. Yep, I think we talked about that. Hello from, okay, Shanghai. All right. Scott, 8-ball question. Should we have a shirt saying something like Miss Winnie not guilty? Should Miss Winnie have a shirt with a saying like Miss Winnie not guilty? I like it. In fact, we have the little Miss Winnie right here. Who here would like to see Miss Winnie the Bulldog here tonight? It was one of those days. That's why we were about 4 minutes late getting started today, because I had to go see a client, which was on the other side of town near the house. So I picked up the lovely Miss Kristen and Miss Winnie the Bulldog. And we brought in sushi, a sushi sashimi platter from, I think, the best sushi place in town, which is Sushi Zen. It's the best. Aaron's the sushi chef there. He's great. I've been going there for, 6-7 years now or something like that. So anyway, Miss Winnie the Bulldog is here if anyone wants to see her really quick before we wrap things up here. Let's see here. Let's just say she's getting big. Come here, Winnie. Oh. She's got a big bone down there. Come here, Winnie. Come here, dog. Come here. Come here, Winnie. See, now she just wants your bone. All right. Take a look at that. Look at her. Look at her. She is going to be 7 months old. Look at her. Yeah, she is 7 months old. There she is. She has a lot of energy for a bulldog. She's still just a little puppy, though. But yes, we love her. And this breathing and the snoring. She needs a little CPAP machine at night. Yeah, but that's all right. She'll be okay. So we brought her in tonight because, let's just say, somebody doesn't like to leave the dog alone more than about 20 minutes. And it's not this guy, all right? She'll be okay. All right. Well, that's all we have for you tonight. Thanks for watching. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Please join us for the Patreon here in just a few minutes. If you haven't joined already, find the link below. Join the Patreon. Frank will send you the secret link, and bam, you'll be able to join us, and you'll be able to call in. All right. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you in just a few minutes on our Patreon show. Thank you.